Hello everyone. The film I chose to watch, review, and critique is Thunderbolts, which released in May 2nd, 2025 by Marvel Studios, and was directed by Jake Schreier. The film is the latest installment in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and features many characters and callbacks from previous films in the series. Before I begin the review and critique, I will give a brief, spoiler-free plot summary. Thunderbolts is an action superhero film where a group of misfit anti-heroes find themselves working together to fight a common enemy. The film is loaded with external conflicts, and the main characters have to face them alongside their internal conflicts, which is a huge aspect of the film. With that in mind, it's time for the film review. Starting off, I will discuss the plot coherence and originality. The film's plot stays very coherent and is clear to follow. However, the beginning was a little less easy to follow as it jumped from character to character, along with different settings and themes. But this is not a major issue, as there is a whole cast to introduce with only so much time, so it's understandable why they filmed it that way. Additionally, for being the latest installment in a series of movies, the character introductions are done in a way that someone like myself, who hasn't seen the previous films or shows, can follow along easily. I was surprised to see that the plot was original and engaging, as some superhero films, whether it be from Marvel or DC, have been sort of predictable or have had lacking an engaging story. When it comes to character development, Thunderbolts largely focus on the development of Yelena and Bob, two of the main characters. Without spoiling too much, Yelena and Bob help each other overcome a similar internal conflict that they both have, and overcoming this conflict is essential to the plot. The camera work, lighting, and framing are all done extremely well, and there are many shots that were memorable and stand out. One scene in particular used a great deal of lighting and lack of lighting. Bob was in a rough emotional spot, and the room that him and Yelena were in was very dark and had shadows surrounding them. And as Yelena was talking with Bob, and they came to a resolution, the room began lighting back up, showing that Bob has escaped from the literal dark place he was in. The angles used were mainly medium shots and close-ups, which were the perfect choice as they showed what the characters' emotions were in the moment, as well as their surroundings. The sound design used in the film was also great, as there was a nice selection of songs to match the different moods at the different times in the film. The sound effects during all of the action scenes had impact and weight behind them, making the scenes feel as real as possible. The dialogue in Thunderbolts was engaging and very humorous. There were, from what I remember, no dull or boring moments in the film. The film's impactful as it dealt with topics relating to mental health and dealing with troubled past, which is something that the audience can relate to on a personal level. Now for the critique. One piece of constructive criticism I have for this film is that the character, Bucky, also known as the Winter Soldier, was seemingly brought into the film just for his popularity. Bucky is a very cool character, and it feels like his potential in the film wasn't fully realized, but that's not to say that the scenes he appeared in weren't fantastic. The Thunderbolts film had several achievements, the first of which I would say is its great comedic scenes and dialogue. Secondly, the way they tackled the topic of mental health was greatly done and had a strong emotional impact. A third achievement of the film, I would say, is its ability to stay entertaining throughout its entire runtime. This film checks all the boxes for the broader audience of the film, as well as the long-term fans of Marvel Comics, as it is on the one hand, an intense action film, and on the other hand, it is a film that brings even more heroes and characters to the big screen that previously weren't on there. Overall, I would give Thunderbolts a 9 out of 10. However, I do feel I have a slight personal bias to giving this film such a high rating, as I am a fan of the character Bucky. Also, I don't tend to think very deeply about films, so I was easily entertained and pleased. Thank you for listening to my podcast review of Thunderbolts.